Welcome to my channel. Emma stood at the kitchen window, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup as she watched the morning light spill across the backyard. The garden, once vibrant and meticulously tended, now bore the faint signs of neglect: overgrown hedges, wilting flowers, and a lawn that hadn't been mowed in weeks. It was a reflection of her life, she thought bitterly, a life that had slowly unraveled without her even noticing. Daniel had already left for work, as usual. His side of the bed was cold by the time she woke, and the only evidence of his presence was the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air. She couldn't remember the last time they'd shared a proper conversation, let alone a meal. His job as a financial consultant consumed him, leaving little room for anything or anyone else. Emma had tried to be understanding at first, but the constant excuses and empty promises had worn her down. She felt like a ghost in her own home, invisible and unheard. The sound of the doorbell startled her out of her thoughts. She set her cup down and hurried to the front door, smoothing her hair and pasting on a polite smile. Standing on the doorstep was Sophia, her mother-in-law, clutching a large suitcase and wearing a wide, almost too bright smile. "Sophia!" Emma exclaimed, her surprise evident. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I thought I'd surprise you," Sophia said breezily, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I've been feeling a bit lonely lately, and I figured it would be nice to spend some time with you and Daniel. You don't mind, do you?" Emma forced a smile, though her stomach churned with unease. "Of course not. It's nice to see you." Sophia's arrival was anything but nice. She had always been a formidable presence, with her sharp tongue and unwavering opinions. Emma had never quite measured up in her eyes, no matter how hard she tried. Sophia's visits were usually short and fraught with tension, but this time she had brought a suitcase. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a casual visit. As Sophia settled into the guest room, Emma retreated to the kitchen, her mind racing. She tried to focus on the mundane task of preparing lunch, but her thoughts kept circling back to Daniel. Where was he in all of this? Did he know his mother was coming? She pulled out her phone and sent him a quick text. *, your mom's here. Did you know she was coming? *. The response came almost immediately. *, no, but it's fine. She's just lonely. Be nice, Emma. *. Emma sighed, frustration bubbling up inside her. Course it was fine for Daniel. He wasn't the one who had to deal with Sophia's constant nitpicking and passive-aggressive comments. She could already hear her mother-in-law's voice in her head, criticizing the way she folded the laundry or the fact that the living room curtains didn't match the throw pillows. By the time Sophia emerged from the guest room, Emma had managed to compose herself. She served lunch in the dining room, making small talk about the weather and Sophia's journey. But it didn't take long for the conversation to take a turn. "You know, Emma," Sophia said, her tone deceptively sweet, "this house could really use a woman's touch. Feels so impersonal. Don't you think?" Emma's grip tightened on her fork, but she kept her voice steady. "I think it's cozy. Daniel and I like it this way." Sophia raised an eyebrow, her smile never wavering. "Well, Daniel always did have simple tastes. But I suppose that's why he married you, isn't it?" The word stung, but Emma refused to let it show. She forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow even to her own ears. "I guess so." The rest of the meal passed in a blur of veiled insults and awkward silences. By the time Sophia excused herself to take a nap, Emma felt utterly drained. She retreated to the living room, sinking into the couch and closing her eyes. As she sat there, a memory surfaced, one from the early days of her marriage, when Daniel would come home early just to spend time with her. They would cook dinner together, laughing and talking for hours. She missed that version of him, the one who made her feel loved and valued. But that version of him seemed like a distant memory now, replaced by a man who barely noticed her existence. And with Sophia here, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get even worse. She opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, a sense of dread settling over her. This was just the beginning, she realized. The calm before the storm. and she had no idea how to weather it. The days blurred together in a haze of tension and unease. Sophia's presence loomed over the house like a dark cloud, her constant commentary and unsolicited advice grating on Emma's nerves. Daniel, oblivious as ever, seemed content to let his mother take over, leaving Emma to navigate the minefield of Sophia's expectations on her own. It was on one particularly stifling afternoon that Emma decided to escape. She grabbed her sneakers and headed out for a walk, desperate for some fresh air and a moment of solitude. The neighborhood was quiet, the only sound the rhythmic crunch of her footsteps on the gravel path. She breathed deeply, trying to clear her mind, but the weight of her frustrations clung to her like a second skin. "Hey, Emma!" The voice startled her, and she turned to see Liam, her neighbor from 2 houses down, jogging toward her. He was dressed in running gear, his dark hair damp with sweat and a friendly smile on his face. "Hey, Liam," she replied, forcing a smile. "You look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders," he said, falling into step beside her. "Everything okay?" The concern in his voice caught her off guard, and for a moment, she considered brushing him off with a polite lie. But something about his easy demeanor made her hesitate. "Just dealing with some family stuff," she admitted, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Liam nodded sympathetically. "Family can be tough. Want to talk about it?" Emma hesitated, then shook her head. "It's a long story." "I've got time," he said with a grin. They walked in silence for a while, the tension in Emma's shoulders gradually easing. Liam had a way of making her feel at ease, his presence calming rather than intrusive. He didn't press her for details, content to let her set the pace. "You know," he said after a while, "sometimes it helps to just get away for a bit. Clear your head. You should come by sometime. I make a mean cup of coffee." Emma glanced at him, surprised by the invitation. "I might take you up on that," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. When she returned home, the house felt even more suffocating than before. Sophia was in the kitchen, rearranging the cabinets with a determined expression. "There you are," Sophia said without looking up. "I was wondering where you'd run off to." "Just went for a walk," Emma replied, trying to keep her tone light. "Well, while you were out, I took the liberty of reorganizing the pantry. Honestly, Emma, I don't know how you find anything in here." Emma bit back a retort, her earlier calm evaporating. She retreated to the living room, where Daniel was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Did you know your mom was going to reorganize the entire kitchen?" she asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Daniel looked up, his expression blank. "What? Well, but I'm sure she's just trying to help." "Help?" Emma repeated, her frustration bubbling over. "Daniel, she's not helping. She's criticizing everything I do. I can't live like this." Daniel sighed, setting his phone aside. "Emma, she's just staying for a little while. Can't you try to get along with her?" "It's not that simple," Emma said, her voice trembling. "She's constantly undermining me, and you don't even notice." Daniel's expression hardened. "I'm not getting in the middle of this. She's my mother, Emma. You need to figure out how to deal with her." The dismissal stung, and Emma felt a surge of anger. "Maybe if you were actually present, I wouldn't have to deal with her alone." Daniel stood, his face flushed with irritation. "I'm doing the best I can, Emma. I've got a lot on my plate right now." "So do I," she shot back. "But you don't seem to care about that." The argument escalated, their voices rising until Sophia appeared in the doorway, her expression a mix of concern and disapproval. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Nothing," Daniel said quickly, running a hand through his hair. "Just a misunderstanding." Emma stared at him, her heart sinking. He couldn't even stand up for her. "Well, I hope you two can work it out," Sophia said, her gaze lingering on Emma. "A happy home is so important after all." The words felt like a slap, and Emma turned away, unable to bear the weight of Sophia's judgment. She retreated to the bedroom, closing the door behind her and leaning against it, her chest heaving with suppressed emotion. As she stood there, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from Liam. "Coffee tomorrow?" Emma stared at the screen, her mind racing. She knew it was a bad idea, but the thought of someone actually listening to her, of feeling seen and valued, was too tempting to resist. She typed a reply before she could second-guess herself. Sure. What time? The response came almost immediately. 10 a.m. See you then. Emma slipped her phone back into her pocket, a strange mix of guilt and anticipation swirling in her chest. She knew she was treading on dangerous ground, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. And that scared her more than anything. The next morning, Emma woke with a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. The argument with Daniel still hung heavy in the air, and the thought of meeting Liam filled her with a mix of guilt and anticipation. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that felt casual yet put together, and slipped out of the house before Sophia or Daniel could question her. Liam's house was a short walk away, a cozy cottage with a well-tended garden and a welcoming front porch. He greeted her at the door with a warm smile, holding a steaming mug of coffee. "Right on time," he said, handing her the mug. "I hope you like it black. If not, I've got cream and sugar inside." "Black is perfect," Emma said, taking a sip. The coffee was rich and smooth, a small comfort that eased her nerves. They sat on the porch, the morning sun casting a golden glow over the garden. For a while they talked about nothing in particular. The weather, the neighborhood, the book Liam was reading. It was easy, effortless, and for the first time in weeks, Emma felt like she could breathe. But as the conversation drifted, Liam's tone grew more serious. "So," he said, setting his mug aside, "you want to talk about what's really going on?" Emma hesitated, her fingers tightening around her mug. "It's complicated," she said finally. "Complicated is my specialty," Liam replied with a gentle smile. And so she told him. She told him about Daniel's emotional distance, about Sophia's constant interference, about the loneliness that had become her constant companion. Liam listened without judgment, his expression thoughtful. "That sounds rough," he said when she finished. "But you don't have to go through it alone, you know." Emma looked at him, her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Liam leaned forward, his gaze steady. "I mean, you deserve to be happy, Emma. And if Daniel can't see that, maybe it's time to think about what you really want." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Emma felt a surge of panic, but also a flicker of something else, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Daniel. "Where are you? Mom's asking, asterisk." Emma's stomach churned. "I should go," she said, standing abruptly. Liam nodded, his expression unreadable. "Anytime you need to talk, I'm here." She hurried home, her mind racing. When she walked through the door, Sophia was waiting in the living room, her arms crossed and her expression stern. "There you are," Sophia said. "Daniel was worried about you." "I just went for a walk," Emma replied, her voice tight. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "You know, Emma, a good wife doesn't disappear without telling her husband where she's going." The accusation stung, and Emma felt her temper flare. "I'm not a child, Sophia. I don't need to report my every move." Sophia's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm just looking out for my son. He deserves better than this." The words hit like a slap, and Emma felt her composure crack. "And what about me?" she demanded. "What do I deserve?" Before Sophia could respond, Daniel walked in, his expression weary. "What's going on?" "Your wife seems to think she can come and go as she pleases," Sophia said, her tone dripping with disapproval. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Emma, can we not do this right now?" The dismissal was the final straw. "No, Daniel, we need to do this," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I can't keep living like this, with your mother constantly criticizing me and you never standing up for me. I feel like I'm invisible." Daniel's expression hardened. "Emma, I'm doing the best I can. You know how stressed I've been at work. And what about me? Emma shot back. Do you even care how I feel? The argument escalated, their voices rising until Sophia stepped in, her tone sharp. Enough. This is no way to behave. Daniel, you need to put your foot down. Emma, you need to start acting like a proper wife. Emma stared at her, a surge of anger and frustration boiling over. You don't get to dictate how I live my life, Sophia. This is my home, not yours. Sophia's eyes widened in shock, but before she could respond, Daniel intervened. That's enough, both of you. The room fell silent, the tension thick and suffocating. Emma felt tears prick at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I'm going for a drive, she said, grabbing her keys and heading for the door. Emma, wait. Daniel called after her, but she was already out the door. As she drove, her mind raced. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay in that house, not with Sophia's judgment and Daniel's indifference. Her phone buzzed again. It was Liam. Everything okay? Emma stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She didn't know what she was doing, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a choice. And that terrified her.